Great, and the recording has started. Welcome, everyone. We will be talking today about Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development's Minnesota Jobs Skills Partnership Overview. And I'm going to turn it over to Jody. Jody?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jody Greising. I'm the director of the Minnesota Job Skills Partnership Programs. Today, I'll provide you with an overview of the different workforce training programs that we offer. We don't have a really large group today, so I think what we'll do is if you have questions, go ahead and ask them as your questions come up. Della, if you could help watch the chat for any questions in the chat, and then also watch for any raised hands. So again,
Perfect.
Just feel free to ask questions as we go here. So get started. And can everyone see my screen? My screen is up.
We
can't
can
see the screen. Raise your hand and let me know. Okay. So first of all, just kind of a general overview of our program. Our programs provide grants to businesses, educational institutions, and nonprofit organizations to train and retrain workers, expand work opportunities, and keep high-quality jobs in the state. We have a 12-member board that oversees some of our programs, not all of them. But the Commissioner of Deeds, Steve Grove, is our chair. And then we also have board members that represent education, business, labor, and nonprofit organizations. The programs that I'm going to go over today are our partnership program, the Pathways program, the Job Training Incentive Program, and the Automation Training Incentive Program. So our board oversees the partnership and pathways programs, and then the Job Training Incentive Program and Automation Training Incentive Program are overseen by DEED. So the general purpose of our program is to act as a catalyst to bring employers with specific training needs together with educational institutions that can design programs to meet their needs. In doing this, we have three main goals. One is to provide workers with skills that businesses need to compete. Another is to develop capacity at our training institutions. And the last is to provide training that offers long-term professional growth and economic opportunity for the workers. I'm going to start by going over our partnership program. This was our original program that was created, I think it's been about 40 years ago now. And the goal of this program is to act as a catalyst to bring employers with specific training needs together with educational institutions that can design programs to meet those needs. So through the program, we offer grants of up to $400,000. The grants technically go to an educational institution that is partnering with a specific business to develop and deliver training that's specific to that business's needs. So again, the funds are used to develop and deliver customized training. The program can't be used to just purchase off-the-shelf training or to send employees to existing training programs. The intent is that the training will be customized specific to your needs. So most of the training through our programs are done through the custom training divisions of our community and technical colleges, but any accredited Minnesota educational institution is eligible to apply. Most of the training is done typically on site at the business, but it doesn't have to be. It's up to the educational institution and business to work that out, what works best. The program does require a one-to-one business match from the business, so that can be either cash or in-kind contributions. Typically, most of the match comes from wages that are paid to employees while they're in the training. So I'd say probably at least 80% of the match comes from the employee wages alone. Other things that could count towards matches, typically you have experts at the business that are assisting in developing the curriculum. So their time in developing that curriculum would count towards match. The value of the space when training is taking place on site at the business, you can use the value of the space towards your match. Any training materials or supplies that the business provides counts towards the match. If you're using equipment at the business, you prorate that for the time it's being used for training, and that can count towards the match. So most businesses don't have any difficulty meeting that match requirement. The training can be for both new or incumbent workers. The projects typically last from about 1 to 3 years. And just to give an idea of what size grant to expect, our grants typically average around $1,200 per worker that's being trained. Over the last several years, about 61% of our grants go to the manufacturing industry. You'll see the next next highest industry is healthcare and social assistance at 10%, and then construction at 7%. Some of the trends that we're seeing in training that's being requested by businesses, we're seeing a lot of succession planning, so developing standard operating procedures to transfer knowledge from existing workers to newer workers. A lot of leadership training to develop newer future leaders. We're also seeing a lot of training on emerging technology or automation. So machine operator and maintenance technician type training. So robotics, PLC programming, mechatronics, data analytics. And then of course, trend in the first two, succession planning, emerging technology, automation. It's all kind of comes down to worker shortages. So in that area, we're seeing a lot of cross training, training to address skills gaps. So that can be your basic manufacturing skills like blueprint reading, safety, precision measurement, and then also advanced training to retrain the existing workers and to promote them. So that's also kind of related to training for recruitment and retention. They want to give their current workers opportunities to advance in the hopes of retaining those workers. So also a lot of supervisor and managerial training, doing a lot of inclusive workplace training and diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Just kind of to put it into perspective, an example of a project would be a project we did with Minnesota West Community College and a medical device manufacturer. They received a grant of $192,000 to train 177 of the business's workers in areas that include cable manufacturing, IPC 620 quality standards, machine maintenance, strategic management, continuous improvement, Lean Six Sigma, and statistical analysis. Their main goal for the training was to increase the business's operational and process efficiencies. And overall, the company reported that the training resulted in improvements in their productivity, quality, customer satisfaction, and setup time. Specifically, some of the results were that through the Six Sigma training, they were able to discover a bottleneck in their molding machine area that was impacting several other areas as well. And as a result of the training, they reduced their setup time in that area from 30 minutes to 12 minutes. They also indicated that the strategic management training helped them develop a succession plan. And through having their employees trained and certified in the IPC 620, the company was able to begin the process of collecting and utilizing real-time data. And for the employees, the training resulted in industry recognized certifications in Six Sigma Green Belt and Black Belt, and in IPC 620 certification. Some of the employees received wage increases and promotional opportunities as well as a result of the training. Next slide, we'll go over a little bit about the application process. So the first step would be a business would identify an educational institution to work with. Most of our projects, again, as I mentioned previously, are through our community and technical colleges. It can also be a public or private university or any other accredited training provider. If a business doesn't have an educational institution that they work with, or they need help identifying an educational institution, they can contact MJSP staff and we can give some referrals to educational institutions in your area. So once you've identified the educational institution that the business is going to work with, the next step would be for them to sit down together, determine what the training needs are, develop a training plan and the budget, and put that in the grant application. The educational institution typically does the bulk of the grant writing, or sometimes they hire a grant writer. The application includes a description of the educational institution and the business, a description of the training needs, information on the training plan, the demographics and average wages by occupation of those who will be trained, and expected benefits of the project, and then the budget. Our board considers applications 3 times a year at board meetings that are held in March, June, and October. Our next deadline for grant applications will be mid-January, and that will be posted on our website. Our deadlines for 2023 will be posted on our website after our October 24th meeting. which is when the board will approve our schedule for 2023. So once the grant application, I go back here and cover a couple of things I think I missed in these bullets. Once the grant application is written, the educational institution submits it to MJSP. Our staff reviews and scores the proposals, and then staff makes a funding recommendation for our board. The board makes the final funding decisions at their board meetings, as I mentioned, held 3 times a year. We do notify the educational institution and the business of what staff's recommendation is before the board meetings, so there are no surprises. They know what to expect when they get to that board meeting. And next, a little bit about our reporting requirements. So since the educational institution is technically the grantee for these projects, most of the reporting is done by the educational institution. They submit reports every 4 months. They have a narrative report, which just tells us how the project is going, if they've encountered any issues or problems. They also submit a training report, which gives us information on the number of people who have been trained. It covers some of the demographics, such as male or female, number of people of color trained, number of people that are in training or completed training. They also submit their financial report that outlines the costs they've had that report period, and then a request for reimbursement. So our grants are paid on a reimbursement basis through reports that are done every 4 months or 3 times a year. What the business is responsible for is helping to track, well, they must track and report their matching contributions. So again, that was typically training wages, sometimes training space, equipment, material supply. They also help the educational institution track the trainee numbers. So they provide information on the number that were trained. We keep track of how many people were trained in newly created jobs. Also the training demographics, such as male and female and people of color. And then also at the end, they give us information on the number of people who were trained, who were placed or retained in wage and their wage rates. We don't ask for any information on specific employees. It's typically it's an average for the occupation that was trained. So you might say we trained 20 machine operators at an average wage of $20 an hour. And then also the business submits a 1-page progress report every 8 months. And it's, again, just kind of a narrative report that describes how the project is progressing from the business's perspective and if they have any concerns or issues. And then at the end of the project, the business completes a final project evaluation. It's mostly their scoring. There are questions that they score on a scale of 1 to 5 in the areas that regard the effectiveness of the training, their relationship with the educational institution, what the impact was for the business on things such as productivity, quality, employee retention, wage increases or promotions. And then also what their overall experience was with the partnership program and if they would recommend it to their businesses. All our report forms can be found on our website. Educational institutions and businesses have an opportunity to see what those requirements are before they apply for a grant. And next, we're going to move on to our Pathways program. This program is very similar to the partnership program, except it's specifically intended to train low-income individuals. So the purpose is to develop cooperative training projects between business and education that provide training, new jobs, and career paths for low-income individuals. So again, with this program, we provide grants of up to $400,000 to educational institutions that are partnering with business. The match requirement for this program is 0.5 to 1, so 50 cents to the dollar, and again, through cash or in-kind contributions. The trainees must have incomes at or below 200% of federal poverty guidelines. In this program, we have more of an emphasis on the economic opportunity aspect for the workers. And the application process and report requirements are the same as the partnership program. Through this program, we tend to see more training for new entry-level jobs, and it can also include assessments and pre-employment type training. Most projects tend to be for the manufacturing or healthcare occupations in more, again, entry-level positions, maybe like machine operators, nursing assistants. We see a lot of those types of training through the Pathways program. Next, we have our job training incentive program. This program provides grants to new or expanding businesses for the purpose of training new workers as quickly and efficiently as possible. So through this program, we provide grants of up to $200,000 to businesses that are located in greater Minnesota. They also have to be adding at least 3 new jobs. Based on the wage rates, the business is eligible for $5,000 to $9,000 per new job for training. The business must match the grant 50 cents to the dollar. There's a $500 application fee that is due only if the grant application is approved. And the new jobs must pay wages of at least 120% of federal poverty guidelines for a family of 4, and that is currently $16.01 per hour. These projects typically run about a year. The training provider is more flexible than through the Partnership and Pathways programs, which must be done through an accredited educational institution. Through this program, the training can be done by an educational institution. It can be done through a consultant, an equipment vendor, or it can be done in-house by the business. The grant funds can be used for any direct training costs. So that would include any curriculum development costs, the delivery of the training materials and supplies, training equipment, the trainer travel, training space. And unlike the Partnership and Pathways program, this program can also be used to pay training wages. So you could use the grant funds to pay the wages of your employees while they're being trained. These grants are awarded on a first-come, first-served basis by the Commissioner of Deed. And that's contingent on meeting a minimum score requirement. The application process is pretty straightforward. It's about a 5-page grant application. It describes the business, what the expansion plans are, the occupations and wages of those who are of the jobs that you're going to be adding, and then an outline of the training plan and the budget. Our staff works very closely with the businesses. So if a business is interested in pursuing this grant, they can start working on their grant application. They can contact our grant coordinators with any questions they have. And then once they submit that application, if there are any issues or any missing information, the grant coordinator will reach out and work with business to get any additional information that we need. Once a grant is awarded, there are progress reports that are due every 6 months. That includes a narrative description of the progress of the training. Again, information on the trainees, the number trained, the wages, demographics, a financial report, and the supporting documentation for the project costs. And then at the conclusion of the project, a final report is due, along with a request for reimbursement and a copy of the payroll report, which we use to confirm the increase in the headcount, since this program is specifically for new jobs. And last, we have our automation training incentive program. This is a relatively new program. We operated as a pilot program in 2019 and 2020. And then in 2021, it started as a regular program. It has a lot of similarities to the JTIP program. The purpose of this program is to provide grants to assist small businesses located in greater Minnesota in the adoption of new automation technology. So it provides grants of up to $35,000 to businesses with 150 or fewer employees. The business can receive up to $5,000 for training per trainee. Again, there is a $500 application fee, which again is only due if the application is approved. And again, the workers must be paid wages of at least 120% of the federal poverty guidelines for a family of 4. These projects also typically run for about a year. And again, the training institution can be an educational institution, a consultant, an equipment vendor, or it can be done in-house. Through the JTIP program, the previous program, most of the grants that we've done, the training's been done in-house by the business. Through the automation training incentive program, most of the training's typically done through an equipment vendor. But again, it's very flexible as to who can provide the training. And again, the grant funds for this program are used to pay the direct training costs associated with training the workers on the new automation technology. These grants are awarded in the same way on a first come, first served basis, approved by the Commissioner of Deed. And the application process and the reporting requirements, again, very similar to JTIP. So just an example of one of these projects would be a grant to a company that supplies metal products and provides added services such as plasma cutting, welding, sawing, and bending. The company had invested in new automated tube and flat laser equipment. So they received an ATIP grant of $30,000 to train 6 of their employees on the new equipment with training that was provided by the equipment vendor. As a result of their investment in the new equipment and receiving the training, they were able to utilize the new technology almost immediately. They increased their production capacity. They're now able to provide precision parts and have expanded their customer base. And they added a 3rd shift and have provided wage increases and promotions for the trainees. So I think a lot of times there's a misconception that automation will result in the loss of jobs, and we've found the opposite. Through our pilot program, we found it often resulted in added jobs because, like this business, they're able to add another shift or expand their customer base. They have new capabilities with the new automated equipment that allows them to take on more customers and new product lines.
And Jody, we have a couple questions out there.
Okay.
One of them is, can businesses use combination of these programs or grants?
Yes, they can. So for example, you could have a business that is having a major expansion. They're going to add 100 new jobs, but they also want to train their existing employees. So through a situation like that, they could use the partnership program to train their incumbent workers, and they could use the JTIP program to train their new workers. So you can train both the new workers and incumbent workers through the partnership program, but yes, you could certainly do a combination of the two to increase the overall grant funds received. You just have to be careful that there's no overlap, so no double dipping where you're charging both grants for the same trainings.
Great. And like you said, they do not need to be new hires for the ATIP.
Right. For ATIP, they can be your existing workers.
Perfect.
The only program that is specifically for new jobs only would be the JTIP program, the Job Training Incentive Program.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions right now?
Those were the 2.
Okay. And I want to go back. I think I missed on the Job Training Incentive Program, just an example of one of those projects. So we've done a couple of grants with a small business located in northern Minnesota that specializes in the restoration, maintenance, and rebuilding of vintage World War I aircraft. This company has had steady growth over the last several years, and they've received 4 small JTIP grants as they've continued to grow. So in total, they've received about $250,000 through the JTIP program. Their first grant was in 2016 when they had 21 employees. Now they have about 50 employees. And with the labor shortage and being in a really niche business, it's been difficult for them to find people with relevant experience. So the JTIP program has allowed them to develop an in-house training program that includes online, classroom, and OJT training that addresses their specific training needs. So that is an example of how the JTIP program has helped a small business grow over the last several years. Forward here, back to the next slide here. This slide is just our program appropriations. over the last 4 years. So we receive annually a general fund appropriation of 4.2 million that funds our partnership and pathways programs. We receive 1.35 million annually for our JTIP and ATIP programs. And then the orange, the 6 million is our board has the authority to transfer funds from the state's dislocated worker program to the Minnesota Job Skills Partnership programs when the dislocated worker program has sufficient funds to meet all their needs. So if they're able to meet all their needs and there's funds remaining, they can transfer some funds to our programs. They did that in fiscal year 20. They transferred 6 million, and then the pandemic hit and training went down. So we still have some of that 6 million that's carried over to fiscal year 21, 22, and 23. So right now, I think we have about 7 million available for our partnership in pathways programs, and we have about 1 million available for our JTIP and ATIP programs for this year. And this slide just shows you where you can get additional information on our programs. We do have on our website in both one-page information, kind of summary information on the programs, and then more specific detail on the programs. You can click and actually download the application forms. You can look at the report forms right here at this link, minnesota.gov D business financing business training grant. It can be a little bit difficult to find, so I'm going to leave this up here for a little bit here so anyone can write that down if they want to. You can also find our application deadlines and board meeting dates on our website. That is under the meeting schedule tab on this at this link. And then also you can find examples of the projects that we've funded on our website. So I think a lot of times that's very helpful for businesses to see some of the descriptions of the projects that we've done to give them a better idea of how the program can be used. And then last we have, excuse me, our contact information. So we divide the state into 2 regions. We have grant coordinators, one that covers the northern half of the state, which is Danielle Cresson, and then we have Vicki Ploney, who covers the southern half of the state, and they split the metro. So there is some contact information there where you can contact them directly if you have any questions about any of the programs. And again, for the JTIP and ATIP programs, where a business is responsible for putting together their grant application, submitting it to us, our grant coordinators are very helpful and very willing to work with the business to answer any questions and help them through the process. Do we have any final questions?
Excellent. I did go ahead and turn on microphones for everybody if they would like to turn on their cameras or microphones and ask any other questions. That was everything from chat at this point. I will go ahead and stop the recording too, just in case that helps people ask questions. That sometimes helps too. And the